So good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Directors Council. I am Donna Minnick-Spuler, and I am the Director of Campus Activities, Service, and Leadership, and I am also your chair for the new Directors and Managers Council. So let's give ourselves a round of applause for expanding our membership. We are very excited to have some new people here with us today. So if you are new to the Directors Council, we got a delay here. If you are new to the Directors Council, you can just shut it, maybe. Yeah. If you're new to the Directors Council, I'd love you to please stand up and introduce yourself and your position and your department. So we're going to start right here, and I'm going to give you the remote so that they can hear you.
Hello, I'm Christina Janos. I'm the new Assistant Director of Human Resources.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Lavina Mitani, and I'm the new Director of Talent Acquisition and Learning and Development.
Congratulations. Welcome.
Jen Spear, Assistant Director of User Support.
I'm Christopher Olaya. I'm the lead desktop system administrator in user support.
Hi, my name is Jay Kim, Assistant Director from Center for Teaching with Technology.
Everyone. Matt Reef, Senior Financial Analyst in the Controller's Office.
Brian Gromkowski, Director of Graduate Programs for the College of Business.
Lori Nailassi, Assistant Director, User Services.
Charlie Doherty, Manager of Prospect Research for Institutional Advancement.
Sean Conklin, Manager of Data Management for Institutional Advancement.
Thank you all. We are so excited to have you with us today, and we know that there are probably more of you. We expanded our membership quite a bit, and the response has been extremely positive for those who have accepted the membership. Are you also a new member? Hi, welcome. Are you a new member to our Directors Council? Let's introduce yourself. You walked right in, or put you right on the spot. We're family.
Hi, Cindy McCann. I work in the Community College and Dual Enrollment Office. You too.
Do we have any people who are on chat? Greg, can we tell if there's anybody on chat? If there's anybody on our chat who might, in the Teams chat, who is new, who would like to say hello? You just drop something in the chat. I'm not seeing anybody come up.
Reggie just said good morning. She has to drop off early.
Yes, I ran into Reggie today earlier, yeah. So, all right. So the Directors Council, as many of you know, is a professional development group. We are supportive of each other. We're often the middle manager people, so we have special needs and requests and things that we support each other with. We are definitely a professional development organization, and so today we want to offer our professional development opportunity by introducing Greg Madison. Greg is going to walk us through AI use for directors and managers and teach us a couple of cool things. And if you have any questions, you can put those in the chat as well. But Greg, I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay. I see Jacqueline Kohler, WP, Online Assistant Director of Financial Aid, is joining us as well, online. Welcome. Paola Duvall, Assistant Director of Payroll, is joining us. So thank you, everybody, for coming in remotely. So these QR codes, we have started a AI user group. It's still informal. We're still trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do with it, but we know that we want to try to get everybody who's using AI together on campus. So the left-hand link will take you to a SharePoint site where we're trying to put resources. Essentially, when we want to build a community where we can exchange ideas, share what we've learned. There are some resources up there. Currently, you can also find the AI policy guide for administration and staff is there. And then on the other side there's a form on that page to sign up. You can shortcut and go right to the form to sign up. So going to the SharePoint, that is publicly available to everyone. Everyone can go there and they can browse those resources and have access to them. If you join as a member, then you will be able to post there as well. So we hope everybody joins as a member and you start to contribute. That's the idea behind these. And that's the homepage of the user group. And so, you can kind of see that's the general layout. We'll be customizing that as we go along. So welcome, everyone. I kind of jumped right in without welcoming everybody. So with AI offering services in everything from image, slide, audio, music, AIs in your cars, and certainly things like the language models, it's reasonable to think that individual departments are going to be able to find opportunities to use some of these tailored services within their operations. And certainly we've seen communication from the administration that's encouraging us all to explore these things. And so we want you to try to find ways that this could be useful to you. Many tools have free trials, but many others do require a subscription. With that in mind, if your department intends to actively pursue any of these third-party services, we do ask that you notify IT of your plans using the help desk ticketing system. There is a request type of technology purchasing assistance. So we would ask that you just, choose that, drop a description, let us know what you're thinking about doing. So there are a host of very real security and network implications to consider related to the data that we all manage here. The current atmosphere around this in some ways kind of reflects when social media first hit the campus. We want to move quickly, we want to participate, we want to jump in, but we've learned that we are benefiting from a broader strategy. As with social accounts, essentially anybody can create an account on any of these sites. But here in the earlier stages, if we forego some sense of centralized tracking, understanding what people are up to, we may set the table for causing ourselves some real complications down the road. So we do have a wonderful team of IT professionals here. Everybody would be more than happy to help you, assist you in exploring some of these things in this new landscape. But just, I ask that you please involve us in your decisions early. So we can think about AI as a new and different part of our campus infrastructure. We have power, we have elevators, we have network, we have Wi-Fi, and we might consider large language models or AI like a form of information elevator. They move lots of information more quickly. And language models excel at the reading, the writing, the summarizing, and the reasoning with text. So Microsoft Copilot Chat is the model that is freely available to the entire campus based on our current Office 365 license. So we felt that it would be important to give you some practical tips for putting Copilot Chat to use. So just a show of hands quickly from the folks in the room here, who has had an opportunity to play with Copilot Chat? So most of us, but it's good. There's still some folks who haven't kicked the tires yet. So and what about some of the other things? Copilot is one, but ChatGPT, folks have used ChatGPT. So more people have used ChatGPT. Okay, Claude, couple folks, Gemini. Okay, Grok, one or two. Okay, so. You see that there's many things available. I'm glad to see that you're kicking the tires with these things. We could talk a little bit later about what you may have noticed in the way these different services function, perform. So if you're familiar with ChatGPT, I saw more hands up for ChatGPT than for Copilot. Copilot is built upon ChatGPT. OpenAI, who made ChatGPT, Microsoft licensed that same technology from OpenAI. So Copilot Chat is very familiar in a lot of ways because it's based off of ChatGPT. It's just been kind of retooled and reskinned by Microsoft. So specifically, the product that we have is called Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat, an emphasis on chat. So it is important that we know that there are multiple versions of Copilot, and that the capability of Copilot scales based on a tiered subscription model. So here's a quick glance at Microsoft 365 chat functions compared with the next pay tier up, called Microsoft Copilot. Now, you note that there are significant differences in function here. We have more red X's on the chat side, but you may also note that the names, Copilot Chat and Copilot, are almost identical. So no surprise, this causes a significant amount of confusion. So in fact, Copilot itself will get confused if you ask it what it can do. So I stress this because it is very important that you all at least know what you have access to, and that you tailor your prompts accordingly, and we're going to get into how we do that. So one of the things that you might ask Copilot Chat is for help with your Office apps. So if you're just moving along quickly, you could say something in the chat like, can you tell me some useful things that Copilot can do for me in my Office functions? Seems like a perfectly reasonable thing you're asking Copilot. And it will likely respond to you with things like, I can summarize your emails, I can revise your formulas in Excel, I can revise your PowerPoint, I can summarize your team meeting. So you could argue that that is true, but this table indicates that Copilot Chat does not natively perform these functions. There are often workarounds if we take care to execute those tasks in specific ways. So first, we need to learn how our particular AI tool performs. In our case, this is Copilot Chat. And we need, so you can think about this. Consider how you have come to know the strengths and weaknesses of Excel and Word. They're tremendously powerful platforms in many respects, but there are also constraints depending on where you are. There are also workarounds. You can do a lot of the same things in Word that you can do in Excel. You can do a lot of the same, but it's not quite tailored in the same way, so there's trade-offs. So the way we use Copilot Chat, it's incredibly powerful. We just have to learn how to use what we've got. So once we've developed a better understanding of our tool set, we can be much more specific or intentional about how we instruct our AI helper. So prompting and process, which we're going to talk about, is a learned skill. It's not inherently intuitive to everyone. So considering our chart, we might ask the same question, informed by our understanding of what we have, a little differently. So first, we know what we have. So we can tell Copilot Chat what we know. So I have a free Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat license. You're not leaving it to chance. I understand that it has some limitations, putting a finer point on it. I would like you to tell me some useful things that I can use Copilot Chat for in my Office functions. Please ask me 3 follow-up questions about what I'm working on currently so as to better inform your answer. Confirm that your recommendations are applicable to the free version of Copilot included within our institution's 365 license. So you're asking the same question, but you're not just leaving it up to the subjectivity of the AI to interpret. You're trying to narrow it down. The AI does want to help you, but it doesn't necessarily know what doors are open or locked to it. So this introduces constraints, but we are also imposing some of our own restraints in this prompt. So in essence, we are trying to ask an open-ended question inside of a fact-constrained box. And if you take that as a general philosophy for working with AI, as you get into more and more complex projects, more involved projects, that basic rule of set your box, set your parameters, and ask an open-ended question, it scales over time. It's not a bad place to start. So are there any thoughts so far with what we're talking about so far? Any early reflections? Let me check online here too.
Are there any thoughts of getting us the more advanced version?
Brian? Yeah. So here, I'll let.
I knew this question was ultimately coming, just so everyone's aware, and I think we might have covered this in prior conversations. At current time, the license is about $400 a user per year, which is fairly expensive once you start to scale that. My colleague back there, Tom DePietro, he does a lot with information technology, but one of the things is basically conversations with vendors about contracts. So we're in conversations about, are there ways to lower that cost, and Microsoft is somewhat agreeable, but again, even if they get it to $200, when you start to scale it out, the question is, how many people are we talking about? Say we want to cover our employee base, $1,000 or 1,000 employees, not including adjuncts in that range, $200. You see where there's a numbers issue. So the broad answer is IT's looking at it, but it's also a case of like, well, is there going to be a budget for that? Do we choose to centralize it versus do we say departments, hey, you need to fund it yourself? But if a department funds it itself, then it ends up that we still have to provide the license. So there's a lot of complexities in there. Does that answer your general question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So and I'll qualify that. We always want column B there. We always want everything that's available to us. What we have is tremendously capable. You're going to be able to do quite a lot with what you have. And if you find that you are pushing beyond what you are capable of, let's engage in a conversation with IT so you understand, so we understand what it is that you're trying to do, because maybe we can help get you to what you're trying to do. Brian again.
I'll help monitor. Terry Carney in the finance office asked, do we set up the constraint parameters each time we use Copilot, or is it a one-time setup?
Okay, so yeah, we are going to talk about the persistence of prompting. So in Copilot Chat, you're going to set up those constraint parameters every time. So that is going to be a part of every starting prompt that you begin. Thank you for the question. Yeah, anything else? Okay, so just some basics. As with all Microsoft apps, you're going to need to be logged into with your WP credentials to start. So this is true of both desktop and mobile. If you are on a personal machine, you're going to need to log into the WP portal. And this is vital because Copilot will inherit your 365 permissions to data. So if you are not logged in, it may appear that Copilot is running, but it will be running as a free trial version, and you may encounter functionality problems. So it is very important that you know that you are authenticated inside of the WP portal. Copilot Chat is accessible to you in 4 places currently. The standalone Microsoft 365 app, which pops up as a window. It is also inside of your Edge browser. You will see it as a clickable link. You can recognize it by that little swirly rainbow-like Copilot symbol. On the Mac, you can go to a Copilot website and use it from within your browser of choice. It is also available within Teams at the top of your chat. Where you see your chat thread, there's a shortcut to Copilot at the top of Teams. And then finally, you have it available to you through the mobile app. Yes, Brian? You want to just hold the mic? If somebody else, you may have to be our microphone runner.
as hopefully, Greg, you're okay with me jumping in.
Yeah, no, by all means.
So just be aware that Microsoft is doing whatever they can to drop a Copilot button and the word Copilot anywhere within their software. So if you received one of our new Windows, or you're on Windows 11, you may see down at the bottom there's a little Copilot icon on the taskbar. They're actually sort of rebranding what would be Office to be Copilot, and basically now you have the Office applications alongside a Copilot button. So just be aware when you see Copilot, it might mean many different things right now.
And a big asterisk on this whole presentation. The goalposts on this are moving on a daily basis. So while I say you won't see Copilot inside of Word, you may very well go home today and find that Copilot is now inside of Word. So I do apologize if that is the case. I have really tried to give you a current benchmark of where things stand currently, but it is incredibly difficult to pin down.
You'll probably see a Copilot button up or at the top right of most of the Office applications out on the Windows side. So, and it brings you into Copilot Chat unless you have an advanced license. So.
Okay, so there you go. In this chart right here, it says, where is it? Like, I thought there was one that was inside, prompting, right there, number 2. So within your app, says it can't do it. So you know, that's 24 hours old. So, you know, that's last year. Let's see, let me skip over because we just said that. I was going to talk about some of that. Regardless of where you find it, you can ask Copilot questions about operations in your standalone apps of Word or Excel. It does work quite well as an Office suite tutor. If you have, you know, particularly with things like Excel, where you have questions about formulas and things like that, it's really quite adept in that sense. So all of this means that to ask Copilot to summarize the text of a Word document, you need to explicitly introduce that document in chat. So one thing I do want to mention, you know, we talked about all these different places that you can access it. Maybe you can access it from Word now. Maybe you can. What's important to understand is that when you launch Copilot, it's the same Copilot Chat window that you would have in the Copilot Chat standalone application. If you launch it from within Word, it is not contextually aware that you're in Word presently. It doesn't know what document is open next to you. So it's not like, oh, cool, it's here in Word. I'll just ask it to summarize this document real quick. It's not looking at that. If you're within Excel, you can't say like, hey, in my document, can you just double check and make sure that all my formulas are calculating correctly? It doesn't know that. It's not contextually aware. Did you have something?
Always. So to that point, if you are in, say you are in Word and you click on the Copilot icon and it launches out the little panel for Copilot Chat, if you look, you may see that there are chats that you have had previously that you have entered in the web version of Copilot Chat because it's the same technical session to be able to go back and forth between the two. So.
Exactly.
That's really helpful because I was just doing that last week and I was wondering, I was getting frustrated. I'm like, why aren't you recognizing what I'm trying to do? Now it makes sense.
It's all shortcuts to the same landing place.
One other exception about the inability of Copilot Chat to be able to see context within the window. Within the Edge browser, if you open up the Copilot Chat side window and say, analyze the web page that I'm looking at right now, it will be able to do that.
Aha, okay. So let's look at how you might actually analyze a document real quick. So here we have the standalone application. So when we talk about each chat is self-contained unto itself. So it comes in dumb. It doesn't know anything about our history. It's like a fresh slate. So in that sense, you can kick the tires all you want. You don't have to worry that it's learning that you don't know what you're doing. So I have a Word document here. So these are just some prompts to so you don't sit here watching me type. So what I'm going to ask Copilot to do here is to summarize a document. So I'm saying summarize the uploaded document detailing guidelines on AI usage. I'm even telling it a little bit about the document that I'm uploading. Give me the key points and a complete list of do's and don'ts for the use of AI at William Patterson University. Also create a checklist of considerations to weigh before uploading a document into Copilot Chat that conforms to these guidelines. Okay, so what am I going to upload into there? I am going to upload the generative AI guidelines, policy guidelines. So I pulled this file from the user group SharePoint. So I'm going to, actually, within here, I'm going to, so I'm navigating to the file, it's on my USB drive, and I'm uploading the actual file into my chat, and then I'm asking it to analyze it. So I gave it the physical file, and I gave it a prompt for directions. So it summarizes here for me. It gives me the do's and the don'ts, and it prepared me a checklist. Now it's asking me, would you like me to create a quick one-page reference guide for the do's and don'ts? I should say, yeah, sure, that would be great. Okay.
This is why you pay for the higher version.
Okay, so when it created me a one-page guide, it gave it to me here as a PDF, and I can actually, so it did generate a document for me. I have done other things where I have said, can you create a document for me? It says, I don't have the ability to create a document for you, but here's how you can create a document for yourself. So jazz, man. Just roll with the punches. It's going to do something. So if you can have it shortcut the work for you, great. If not, follow the directions and copy and paste the text from within the application. Okay, the other way that we might accomplish what we just did, same kind of prompt idea. So here I will create a new chat thread. This chat thread has no idea what we were doing. There's my old chat thread over there, but this is now a new chat thread. So I'm starting fresh again. It doesn't know anything, so I'm going to copy paste my prompt into there again, same directions. Now, here I have a SharePoint link. If you notice that this is a hyperlink, okay, so this is not the actual document now. This is just a SharePoint link. So I'm going to place a link to this file into my prompt. So this is useful if you are collaborating with a document. You know, you have a team, you want to make sure that you're working off the latest, greatest version. It inherits your permissions to your files from SharePoint. So, oh. So how do I copy paste the link? Control C, right? And then paste. This worked in my demo. Let's see. No, file name again. All right. So how do I edit hyper? Right click. Right click is not happening. Oh, there it is. Edit hyperlink. There we go. Address. Copy. I'm encountering Mac PC fluidity. Oh.
You're going to have to close out the window and go back to the Word doc and then close out the console so they cancel them.
Oh, because I was still open, I couldn't paste. There we go. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so there you go. You know, and certainly, you know, it's advising us, all the things, you know, if you haven't looked at the document, you know, there are things, does the document include any protected data, any HIPAA, FERPA? So these are all, this little checklist right here, before I upload anything, I would have this next to my computer, and before I do what I just did, I would double check on that checklist, because we don't want to put any protected data. We don't want to upload any document that has protected data into the chat. Any questions about what we just did? Okay. Let's just check online real quick and see how folks are doing. Nothing? Okay, great. Okay. So, like I said, AI is kind of akin to an information elevator. So it's important to know how to work the controls of our elevator. You know, which buttons to push, the emergency stop. So AI, LLMs, are built for probabilistic thinking. What does that mean? It means it guesses what sounds right based on the patterns that it has analyzed from its billions of documents. So it is going to give you the most likely answer to your question, not the most accurate one. There are instances where probabilistic thinking works very well. They call this zero-shot prompting. So you can execute these functions with just a simple one-sentence command. A lot of the prompts that I was starting to wordsmith here were getting much longer and much more verbose. You don't have to do that all the time. So some zero-shot commands that you might use. Rewrite this email with a more professional tone. Summarize the key points of this meeting and give me my action items. I'd like to brainstorm some creative themes that I could weave into my presentation to make it more entertaining or engaging. So these are zero-shot prompts. Close enough is okay for you. So this is why large language models like Copilot work so very well in revising text documents that have already been created. Or I know, Donna, you've mentioned like recommendation letters. So a recommendation letter, it's got a structured form that's pretty well understood. You don't have to have your personal nuanced voice. You actually want something that is kind of ubiquitous. So this is where zero-shot prompting works well. Here are some functions, typical Office functions, that work very well with zero-shot prompting. Email drafting. You've drafted an email. Generally, you've hit all the key points, but you want to make sure that it is polite, or it is professional, or it is funny, or it is, you know, whatever it is. So you can think about AI language. You and I may have an interpretation of a certain word in our vocabulary. I may have come to understand that word because that's the way my mom always used to use it. It may be wrong, but it's the way I understand the way, you know, what this word means. And that tends to feed into my own unique personality in the way that I communicate. I use words in a kind of funny way sometimes because of the context of which I've learned, and it's very unique to me or you. AI, on the other hand, has gone out and looked at billions of examples of text, and it has found the most common use of vocabulary. So in that sense, from a business communication standpoint, the generality of its understanding is actually a superpower, because what do we want? When we're communicating in a business standpoint, we want to try to maximize the likelihood that people understand what we're talking about. Our own subtle variance in understanding vocabulary can sometimes get in our way. So by feeding it through AI, you put it through a ubiquitous lens that ultimately ends up having a greater likelihood of succeeding when people read it. So it's homogenized, it strips your personality a little bit out, but you have a better chance of the words meaning what you intended them to mean to the person on the other side, because you're almost getting like the average communication of language. So there are instances, particularly in the professional setting, where that's super, super helpful. And brainstorming and agenda, these are the things that you don't have to think too hard about that AI will do for you. So on the other hand, there are often times that we prefer substantiated output that has reflective or structured thinking. So this is where we need the fact box constraint, right? This is where we need to deliberately force AI out of its probabilistic default into clear steps, logic, and checks. It will execute as a machine, but we need to force it into that paradigm out of its normal operating state. And our prompt is the switch that moves AI from probable and good enough into like reasoned and researched and empirically grounded. So this is kind of a handy chart to just kind of have on your desk. You can basically think about, what is it that I want to do? Am I on the green side or am I on the orange side? And if what you're proposing to involve AI in falls more on the orange side of this chart, you need to think much more deliberately about the prompt that you're crafting. So any questions about that? Anything online? No. Okay, great. A couple little basics. The GPT interface. So it's a hub of sorts for interacting with a variety of tools. Even within the Copilot interface, you have a couple of different tools available. In the mobile, web, and edge versions, you have access to a left-hand menu with selections for chat, agents, conversations, tools. And chat is the main space for your user interaction. Agents allow you to build or select from pre-made specialized assistants that perform a specific set of instructions or have a data set that are attached to them. So back to that question earlier, do I have to put those constraints on every time? Within chat, you have to do those constraints every time. If you find a set of constraints that are like, hey, this is how I want this thing to operate moving forward, well, then you might create yourself an agent. And that agent comes preloaded with that prompt, okay? Conversations. So a little further down. We start down here, we have the conversations. So conversations stores the history of all of our user interactions. So there are some additional tools down a little lower. For pages, which is like a notepad, create, which is generally tailored towards around image creation. Conversations are important. So I wanna just hang on conversations for a minute. So each conversation can function as a form of persistent memory. So they are there, you have a history with them, and it allows you to pick up an idea or a discussion the next day, the next week, a month later. So this is tremendously useful if you are using Copilot to help you brainstorm a strategy or work through a complicated problem, because it allows you to retain the context of your discussion. When you have a constructive interaction with Copilot, I suggest that you rename your conversation. It's just going to default to some kind of arbitrary snippet of what your first prompt was. You might want to give some thought to having a clear, structured name format to your conversations. Like, go back in at Project X when you're talking about, or, Project Dash Phase 1, or Project, Getting Started, or Project Outline, or whatever it is. So the way you do this, next to each conversation, there's the 3 ellipses. You just click on the 3 ellipses, and then you can rename. You also have the ability to delete if you have something, a thread that you don't feel that you'll be coming back to. So once you rename it, there's a search bar at the top. So if you can kind of implement your own standard for how, then that search bar becomes a lot more useful to you. You start to be able to find your way back to your ideas. That's the search bar right up at the top. So hopefully you may have already devised some practical use case scenarios, just seeing what the large language models can do, kind of its modalities, how you can kind of natively handle some things without structured prompting. But we've also learned that if you ask a predictive thinker for something factual, you get a boilerplate answer. So you could, if you ask something like, how do I register for my classes at William Patterson? It will reply, well, you log into your student portal, go to the registration section, select your courses, and submit. Sure, isn't it just that easy? So it's a boilerplate answer, and it's like, it's kind of right, but it's leaving an awful lot out of the process. It leaves out context. So, we have things like advisor approval and holds cleared, and there's specific time windows for your registration, all these kind of things. So this is just bad information. So we want to introduce more information. So as we saw, we could upload a file for the LLM to analyze in the same way. We can upload a data set or a knowledge base to inform our question. We can also point the LLM to a specific website. Or we can upload Word documents or PDF documents, spreadsheets, anything that contains a finite amount of data that we want to use to inform the query. So when we ask that same question and point it to a website and say, use this for your information, we get a much more nuanced answer out of the AI. So you could think of this like constraints, but essentially what you're doing is you're leading the horse to water. You're not saying, because all it's going to do, you understand, we say they're smart, we understand that, we say they have knowledge. They have broad knowledge of the billions of pages on the internet. You can ask it a question about American history, because American history is kind of out there. You might still get some weird answers, but that is out there in the ethos. When you start to ask it specific questions about what, the students are going to run into this. What is my professor looking for in X, Y, Z? It doesn't know that. It doesn't have that information. So we need to lead it to water here. So this is kind of, this sets up our next level in the order of complexity. So you may have heard of the term RAG. So this is retrieval augmented generation. So the idea here being that generally, in our default operation, we're moving from the question portion at the far left, and we're going to the LLM as a generator. So we come from here, and then it takes over, and it generates us a response. What we want to do is introduce a middle step there, where we introduce other information into the process. So that's what we're kind of demonstrating there. So while I can upload a document and say, analyze this document, I could also upload a knowledge base and say, this knowledge base, whether it's the registrar's page or a PDF of standards and procedures that your department has, you can upload that and say, as bound by the information within this document, tell me XYZ. So it's a quick way to jumpstart your fact box. So how much can you put into that database? You can upload a document of about 50 megabytes. We're generally trying to keep our overall exchange within a chat to less than 100,000 words. Okay, that's a lot. And that includes your document, your prompt, and then leaving room for the AI to respond to you. So, you're talking about hundreds of pages that you can upload to inform it of its process. Generally speaking, within your document, it pays, if you look at kind of a diagram of its response, it responds to the stuff at the beginning of the document very, very accurately. It holds that. It responds to the stuff at the end of the document very, very well. Some of the stuff in the middle, it's a big book, and it's querying that book live when you ask it a question. It doesn't cache that information in the chat version. It is scanning that entire document, looking for it, making its qualitative assessment, and returning you an answer on the back end. But you can feed it a lot of information. I mean, 100,000 words you've got a big sandbox to play in. When you start to get beyond that, or knowing what I just said about that kind of curve of its attention, you might consider chunking your project down into smaller chapters. Okay, instead of giving you my entire knowledge base for my department, I'm just going to be asking you about the computer replacement program policy. Okay, so I'm just going to upload that one subset. It's going to be better and more efficient, just like you or I would. We get kind of overwhelmed if we get too much information. In this information elevator, you might imagine that there are floors that we can now reach much faster. Budget insights, email triage, report drafting. So something else that comes up is querying surveys. We love surveys. So let's drop a survey in. Any questions about the knowledge base and using a knowledge base? No? Okay, anybody online? We good? Okay. I'm going to start another chat, starting fresh. So I'm going to let the computer know, the AI know, that this is kind of a lengthy prompt. You are an expert analyst. Your primary goal is to provide structured data, driven insights, and actionable recommendations. Always prioritize clarity, precision, and evidence-based reasoning. I'm putting it in a box, and I'm giving it a role. When responding, use analytical frameworks like SWOT and pestle trend analysis where relevant. So this would depend on what your survey is doing. Present information in structured formats, tables, bullet points. Validate assumptions, highlight uncertainties. So you want to create a breadcrumb trail for anything that it is providing you in the way of conclusions. You want to see its thought process in feeding you those conclusions. Avoid speculation unless explicitly requested. So if you were brainstorming ideas. When qualitative analysis is possible, show the calculations and your models clearly. Explain the logic behind any conclusions or insights. Provide actionable recommendations. Maintain a professional, objective tone. In the attached documents, Consider any bias or subjectivity that may have been introduced in the structure of the questions and advise on remediating any such occurrence. Okay, so that I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. I'm not just uploading, in a minute, I'm not just uploading the results of my survey. I'm going to include the survey itself so that it knows the context of what people were asked, so it can infer something from the question and the answer. You're getting on both sides. Consider all the responses, but also qualify the responses to some extent based on the occurrence. For example, we might want to respond to negative comments if they are reflective of an endemic problem. But if they're an outlier, we might more easily mitigate those concerns with a simple revision to our process. So what I'm trying to do here, it's a verbose way of saying, don't give the one person who complained an outweighed, influence in our results, if 95% of our results were positive, but we don't want to dismiss it either. They have a seat at the table, but, let's keep things in perspective. And you may find a different way of conveying that. So let's see. Now I am going to, no, it's not there. It is. So I have a couple IT survey. So you can also, before you disseminate your survey, you can craft your survey and then put your survey in here and say, give me recommendations on my survey questions. It's going out to the student body. It's going out to the parents. I want to make sure that I'm not asking leading questions. I want to maintain objectivity. Can you give me better ways of expressing what I'm asking in a way that's going to get me a more honest answer? You can, it's, again, that goes back to that ubiquitous superpower that it has. Formatting a survey is an awesome way to use that translation to make sure it lands right with your audience. So when I include both the survey and the responses, it's pretty interesting because it can qualify. Did I paste my? Yeah. I wasn't sure if I pasted my link in there. My documents, I did, yeah. So, this is a more involved thing, and there's many more fields of data here. So, back to the discussion of can we get the full version of Copilot or not? I mean, you can still get a sense, you can do an awful lot with the chat version of Copilot. It's still crunching some serious numbers here, and it's giving you insights, and it's expediting a review of your things in a very thoughtful way. As thoughtful as you prompt it to be. So, while this is thinking, I'll kind of get ahead because we're getting a little short on time. So, as directors and managers, you do get to decide where we install the elevators. Do you have a question?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Greg, for those of us that are very comfortable with chat, why would I want to do this? Why would I want to use Copilot?
Oh, with ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is within our 365 ecosystem. So you do have the ability to link to files on SharePoint and things like that. A lot of that comes down to the safeguarding of data. It comes down to Microsoft takes provenance of information extremely seriously within the Office 365 framework. So we are also seeing some things that are important to consider in terms of that. Some of you may have, if you're using OneDrive or SharePoint at all, you go to share that document with somebody else, and sometimes you run into problems with that. Like, I meant to share it with you, but you don't have permissions. I got to go back in and a lot of folks, as a shorthand to that, have decided to check the box, share with everybody at my institution, because it's just quicker. It's like, well, look, I'm only going to share it with Brian. So I'll just make it available to everyone. I'm only sharing it with Brian. He's the only one who's ever going to know about it. But now you have an AI agent that is querying everything on campus at a request, and it can discover anything that you have permission to. So if you do this as a little experiment when you go home, hey, show me all the files that I have related to budget, and maybe I don't want to, but you might be surprised how many things people have just checked the box share with everybody. It didn't really matter so much 5 years ago, but that is something that as managers, you really need to impart to your employees, that now, like, the provenance of your information, that permission structure is super, super important now. Yeah.
When you're done.
Yeah, no, that's a good break point.
All right, so to Pete's question, think about it like the concept of Facebook or any other social channels, right? The accounts are free. Why are they free? Because ultimately you are the product. So with OpenAI, at least for the base level, there is not a cost to it. And ChatGPT, that means that as anything that you put into ChatGPT, you're basically feeding into the ecosystem that ChatGPT can throw out, which is why the university policy has been nothing of sensitive information, protected information should ever go into a AI tool that is not sanctioned or outside. So that's the first question. On Greg, what Greg was leading to, and I had this from before about what I wanted to talk about with like Donna's question about why not Copilot, the full version of Copilot for everyone, or the paid version of Copilot. To Greg's point, I just want to walk through a very quick exercise. I'm going to pick on Brian because I know Brian's been here for a long time, right? So Brian used to work in graduate admissions, right? Brian has been here for how many years? Okay, so granted 12 is not far enough back, but say hypothetically Brian's account gets compromised, right? Now the attackers have access to Brian's account, and Brian also happens to have a Copilot license. In past, if someone was like, hey, you know what? Search my email account for maybe any social security numbers or things that look like social security numbers, or things that look like credit card information. It would do a scan, and then the person would have to kind of look through and maybe like poke through like 12 years of emails. Now with Copilot, with the new version, because it's direct integration into your Teams messages, into your Outlook emails, into documents you have, you could say, do a quick search for anything that looks like social that I've ever had in my thing, and it will bring it back near to instantaneously. So as you can understand, we have some concerns about releasing that tool out without proper security. And again, I reference back to Tom. Tom working within the enterprise network group, that team is now looking through within Office 365, the broad thing of Copilot, really SharePoint, OneDrive, anything that's cloud-based, anything that's email. What are the guardrails that we want to put in place to make sure that that cannot be used for that level of abuse should that happen? Does that make sense? Wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we're all scared.
But that's the balance that we play, which is, useful, absolutely, but we need to be careful of making sure that we are being careful with the tool and not just throwing it out there for what could happen. So.
And I can appreciate that, in some ways I've tailored ChatGPT. I'm a big ChatGPT user. I've tailored the tone and response of my GPT. I'm able to personalize that in a way that I find very, very helpful. But, I don't know what ends up happening to the data when it goes there. I mean, it's a paid plan, and they say, well, you're within the paid tier, so if you upload these things, we're not going to use those to train the models. Today, they've already kind of hedged that, saying, no, to be really, you've got to be on the Teams plan to be, then we really don't use it, So within the current chat environment, I would almost say, in terms of our baby steps here, getting to go with this, it's erring on the side of conservative. I move away from a chat and I come back and I say, yeah, run me another analysis of that document. So I don't have the document that it's already sunsetted just because I navigated away and came back. And it's like, oh, isn't that such a nuisance? Yeah, well, it is a nuisance, but there's a safeguard that's also introduced there that affords us a little bit, like we can be, we don't want to make mistakes, but this affords us a little bit which is probably not a bad idea at this stage of the game. Yeah, yeah.
I just had a question. So you said when we open up a new chat or do a new box, it's a fresh one and it won't remember any of your previous conversations. Is there a way to set it up that it does remember certain things?
So the question is, I said this for the benefit of the folks remote. I said that if you go away and you come back, it doesn't remember the context of the chat. So there's with a little bit of an asterisk. Remember, I said there's the conversations. So the conversations remember the context of the discussion, but not the attached documents. You'd have to re-upload the attached documents. The documents sunset. There isn't a persistent memory switch unless some of the, Tom or Brian can tell me. So within ChatGPT, you do have the ability to turn on memory. They call it memory. And that essentially connects all of your conversations. And now GPT can kind of look over the totality of your conversations to start to build a bit of a profile of you. You asked me about, groceries, so, you're a homemaker or, whatever it is. It starts to build these little breadcrumbs in the same way that Google holds cookies about your searches so that it helps you find your way back to so it's working in a similar kind of cookie way. But Copilot does not do that. It's compartmentalized, which from a professional standpoint, I kind of prefer. But
I haven't seen, it's clear with ChatGPT about, it has a section where it's these are things that I've learned about you over the course of time. But with Copilot, even so, I'm piloting one of the premium licenses. But even before that, when I was just using Copilot Chat, I did find it if I was using it to write, say, a announcement, and I would tailor my style a little bit more. When I generated a new chat, it would often seem like it would follow the previous things that I've done. So there is a little bit of learning to what it's doing. It might not necessarily know that, hey, your daughter's naming this and this, which honestly, that's good to me, but it seems like it does learn a little bit about the style. So
Yeah, I agree with that, because I've used that for recommendation letters, et cetera, and it does pick up my style.
Yeah, I wish I could give you a hard and fast definitive answer, but a lot of this is a little fuzzy. So what I just did here, because this is similar to the ChatGPT, I've never done this before. If I were to do this in ChatGPT, if I were to go down here to my settings, there would be a personalization tab where I can put an overarching kind of theme or something like that, guidelines that I want to apply across all of my chats. So here in Copilot, it doesn't have that, So it's more generic in some respects. So our report is done. So this is lengthy. It gives us some summaries. It's giving it's leaving a paper trail. It's showing me what it did along the lines of doing these calculations. It's giving me its summaries. It's giving me graphical layouts. And so this is a really thoughtful, overall comprehensive summary of everything that was in our survey. So if I say, great, can you provide this as a formatted Word doc? I expect that this is the type of thing that it's going to say no. But it's thinking about it for a good long while here, so I'm wondering. So I will tell you, in preparation, last night I did this, and it said no. So it depends on its mood.
It's like a customer service rep. You never know what you're going to get.
I got the good one. All right, so while that's chugging, oh, there we go. I couldn't embed the charts because the image files weren't available. But the rest of the Word document was generated successfully with text sections, tables. Let's see. Where is the link, though? Yeah. Yes. Yes, provide as is. So it looks like it's there, but there's nothing to click.
And then it apologizes. I'm sorry.
You know, yeah. Yeah, even if I say, you know, I can't click that. You're right to call me out on that, you know. But you can always go up and copy paste the text. So jazz.
Can you ask it to create a one-page infographic?
Infographics take a while, but sure.
Just a simple info, right?
So that's going to take it a minute. So while that's thinking, it's going to chug. So I'm going to come back over here to our presentation for a minute. So I was saying, you know, you get to decide where you want to install the information elevators. AI is delivering value in small but meaningful ways. So we tried to cover some examples to spark some ideas. Not necessarily prescribe solutions. You can take this back to your operations. So I might suggest you can reflect on where you see inefficiencies in the processes that you currently undertake. Consider how AI might help to improve those. Often repetitive tasks that consume a lot of time but are relatively mundane are kind of opportune places that you might start trying to work AI into your workflow. But ultimately, the goal is to foster a collaboration and explore pilot projects that could lead to broader adoption or you know, maybe even strategic transformation. So again, we've got the user group here. So I would encourage everybody to join that. And let's see how our infographic is doing. It's coming along. Now, I would want to go back and confirm that this infographic jives with my understanding of the information. Don't take its summary as lock stock. So at the end of the day, this is a machine churning out widgets at your direction. So you are the line supervisor. You're giving your production line a list of instructions, and it's churning out an information widget. It's ultimately still up to us to determine whether or not that widget is accurate, whether or not it's safe, you know, whether or not it's performing to. So we are shifting from, I mean, this is the management team. So you're familiar with the supervisory role. So this is well tailored because that is the role that more people need to start to engender when dealing with AI. So, you know, your management skill set, you need to be the boss of the AI. So, you know, if you're asking the people who report to you to work with the AI, you know, you want to, in some sense, empower them with the management tools, the management mindset to think about, okay, you know, you're setting about a task. You're in a way, I don't want to call this an employee because that takes us down a whole, you know, it's an assistant, it's a virtual assistant. You're giving it a list of job responsibilities, and then you're following up on how well did it execute those job responsibilities, how accurate it was, and then, you know, and then you bring it back in for a discussion, a performance evaluation about, like, you know, hey, you know, I asked you to do this, you didn't do this, you know, you missed the mark. What can we do to work with you so that you develop professionally so that you execute this better the next time? So, you know, there's kind of a cool parallel discussion there. Any other questions? Yeah.
So I've heard that if you say please and thank you when you're prompting, the responses are different versus when you don't do that.
So if you're nice to it, as
Yeah,
opposed to
that's
being
what
mean
I've
to
heard.
it.
I don't know if that's true or not.
So if you say please and thank you, you get a different response. It's possible. I've also heard that if you use harsh language, you can force it to comply more than yeah, yeah. I don't know. It may be true. Experiment and see what works for you. Another way of thinking about that, it is a machine, it doesn't have feelings, you're not going to hurt its feelings. A lot of times when it is expressing feelings, I always kind of feel like there's an element of manipulation in that I kind of resent it. It's like, listen, you're executing, just do what I asked you to do. Everything you say has a token cost, so every word you use costs you in terms of like actual real world energy. So pleasantries, if you find that they are getting you a better result, then by all means use them. But pleasantries for the sake of pleasantries' sake actually costs us, power plant generation time. And it's like, at the end of the day, if I need you to just get it done, I don't know that it makes a difference. Anyway, I don't want to anthropomorphize the machine at the end of the day,
But to that point, then I guess when you're doing your prompting, you want to be as concise as possible,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
You want to be as specific and as concise, so it's really a lot of language in your brain when you go into that prompting.
It's 100%. So you want to be concise with your prompting. You don't want to be too verbose with your prompting. Efficiency and how to use AI efficiently is probably a whole nother discussion. And what a lot of the power users you see online are doing is they have a separate discussion with a separate AI about the prompt before they put the prompt into another AI. So you're leveraging the strengths and weaknesses of one chat into another one, just so that this one performs well. And to a similar sense, a lot of the things that I've been reading, sometimes you will find you start with a prompt and you start to go through things and it's just whack-a-mole. You just can't hit the mark. And so you keep on like beating this horse, trying to get it. And it's like, everything I've read is like, nope, cut your losses. That chat did not work out. Back to baseline, create a new chat. And this is why, the fact that it doesn't remember is maybe a good thing. I don't know what it was that I said in that first thing that set us down the road that we are just not going to get to Disneyland, so cut your losses, end that chat, start a new chat, start fresh.
And there are limitations of how long the chat can go, because I've gotten to the point where this chat is done.
Yeah, and that's the...
Insulting me now.
And that's called the context window. So if you have a project, I've done some pretty involved coding things where I'm, building out custom sites, and it's like the iterative process of like, give me code, let me test it, let me tell you the error that's getting thrown, and back and forth and back and forth. I mean, my thread is long, and then it's chugging along great, and then all of a sudden, I'm just like, I can't move anymore. I can't get anywhere more productive. I've run out of my contextual memory window. So I have to summarize, go to a new chat, say, this is what I was doing, this is where I stand, and you start over fresh. And sometimes you lose something in that process.
To me, that's completely accurate too. And even Copilot, not Copilot, ChatGPT, especially as you get into things that are more, say, image-based or video-based. Like I tried to do a 5-second quick claymation thing with a very simple prompt and probably spent, honestly, like 2 hours trying to get it to do it. And I was like, it's just not gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, I realized it probably would have been easier for me to just like do the movements myself and take pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So like it will lead you down a path thinking it's going to get there. And then at the end it'll be like, oh, I definitely can do this. And then it'll say, I lost this from memory. We have to restart from point 1 when you're at point 100, so.
So a couple of things about that in terms of a power tip. So if you say, analyze this, and it gives you an analysis, and it comes back and it's like, well, that's completely wrong. You're not. So analyze this and giving it a thing. That's the zero shot prompt, right? If I say, analyze this, I want to draw your attention to, in phase 1, this is happening. In phase 2, this is happening. What I don't understand is what's happening in phase 3, why that correlates. That's like a 3-shot, not a 0-shot. It's a 3-shot. You're giving it breadcrumbs. I know something that's going on here. It's particularly important with images. You know, tell me what's going on in this image. And it doesn't interpret it right at all. But if you can say, here's a similar image, I'm going to tell you what's going on in this image. Here's another similar image. I'm going to tell you what's going on in this image. Tell me how the first image correlates to the other two. Your chance of success goes up significantly. So it's kind of that RAG idea, but with giving it, you know, the trail to logic.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Wondering if you would be willing to share the prompt you used to analyze the survey data.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'll put the whole presentation up. I'll put it on the user forum, and then, you know, I mean, Don can send out a link to it. Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and if there's anything from the PowerPoint or anything that we can put onto the Directors Council webpage, we can add that to it as well.
So since Donna had opened up the window about the concept of the, we'll say premium Copilot, right? Which I talked about before. No, it's good because it's questions that we get. There are a number of people within IT who are kind of piloting and testing it and seeing about how well it does. What I can tell you is that things that I've found that seem like they're beneficial, if you do a Teams meeting and you bring it in and you can say, okay, turn on a facilitator. It does Teams meeting notes and like recap and action items very well. Within email, it has this annoying prompt that every single email that you open up says, do you want me to write an AI response to this? which honestly, I have a very theoretical issue with down the line if we're just having AI responses talking back and forth to each other, right? Because like that's not going to help us either. You can do other things with obviously the analysis directly within Excel. You can have it like write Word documents. You can have it summarize emails or summarize Word documents. To me, I think the biggest thing that I've found so far definitely has been the Teams ongoing facilitator, but there are other tools that Microsoft have that do similar things that are at lower cost. So like I said, we're exploring a little bit. I don't know if anyone that has actively has the Copilot has other things that they've found that seem like are beneficial from the tool. But again, keep in mind that we're talking I think it was previously $30 a month per user, but we're looking about discounting, and then the question is, even at that, if you say it's $300 or we get it down to $150 a year, then it's, well, who?
They're cutting you off.
It's time to go. No. So that's, but there's a cost perspective.
And like I say, there's workarounds. That whole Teams chat just becomes part of the database in the full version, for better or worse. But if you are using the chat version and you have transcript on for your Teams meeting, I can just copy that transcript and paste it into Teams and say summarize. So do I need it to happen automatically? Is it worth $300,000 a year for something to happen automatically? That we could selectively, at the time that I need the transcript from that meeting, copy it, paste it, get my summary. I don't know, my feeling, having kicked the tires of both of these for a while, this is my subjective opinion, but I feel like for 95% of our office operations, Copilot Chat gets you there. There are instances where you're doing something a little bit more involved with an agent or something like that, where it's okay, we might need to have another tier that allows us to do some of these more sophisticated agent building. But I don't know that that is something that necessitates everybody having access to it. I don't know. That's just my editorial.
I'm generally in agreement so far. Like, I don't see that it's like, oh, this is amazing value, so.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
Can you set up assumptions?
Can you set up assumptions? Can you explain to me a little bit more what you mean?
So let's just say I upload a picture of a dog and I say, this is a cat.
Mm.
Or I upload 3 pictures of dogs and say, these are cats.
Mhm.
But the next time I upload a picture of a dog, even though it's clearly a dog, it will say, this is a cat.
Okay, so the question is, if I uploaded pictures of a dog, but I tell it that is a cat, then the next time I upload a picture of a dog, would it be informed? Within the scope of a chat, you could do that. Or if you built an agent and you redefined. So I was just at a College of Business prompting discussion yesterday with a professor from UConn. And he essentially did that. There was a list of qualifications for journalism articles. And it said, you know, politics is this, business is that, arts and entertainment is this. And then he just transposed entertainment and politics and said, analyze this web article and tell me what category it is. And it said, you know, like, oh, this is clearly entertainment. And it was, you know, about the Trump administration's, you know, latest policies, you know, so, which some people might think is entertainment, but, you know, so yes, you know, you can define the terms, which, you know, when you get to logic, you know, you're redefining the logic, quite literally. So yeah, it's executing based on the criteria that you set forth. So it's kind of, you know, you can introduce bias in the same way. You know, you can, so be careful, yeah.
So let's give a round of applause for Greg and the IT team back there, working in the back, and Brian.
Yeah. My co-presenter.
We will share as much as we can from the presentation. We'll send it out to everyone. We'll also post it on the webpage as well. Did we have any late newcomers to the Directors and Managers Council that came in that we'd like to have you just quickly introduce yourself and welcome you officially? I'll come back to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cassandra Carlton. I am the Director of Pre-College Youth Programs here. I ran out of the College of Ed. So I started, April will make 3 years, but I had a baby last year, so I was out for like half of the year. Thank you. So yeah, 3 years coming up in April.
Welcome, welcome. We also do have the sign-in sheet, so it is here. If you have yet to do it, I will leave it back over here so you can grab it. Any other newcomers to our Directors and Managers Council?
I'll share that Jill Guzman said that she's used Copilot for the creation of infographics and found it to be very adept at the creation of infographics. So if you haven't tinkered with that yet, you might give that a whirl.
Yeah, actually, when I saw you do that up here, I went, aha, I really like that idea. I haven't tried that yet. So before we depart, any announcements that anyone would like to make? I guess Brian has one.
We're going to get you alive next time.
It's not an announcement, but since like I have a number of people that are attending for their first time, I figured for new people that haven't attended before, for Directors Council, it can be a variety of different things. So this one was very dedicated to AI for the entire time, but you know the agendas can vary different times where it might be someone's coming in to talk about strategic plan for 20 minutes, and then we happen to have a conversation about something else. So
That actually will
yeah.
happen. We've actually had somebody come in and talk to us about
Yeah, and there's other, Donna obviously will be able to send out more information about like what things happen, but just pay attention to the agendas because they do vary for, you know, and it's a variety of different things.
Just because there are folks listening remotely, so they won't hear you. I don't know that is working. Maybe our better.
It is the transition program. It's a program for students with disabilities ages 18 to 21. So they come to our program 5 days a week and are working towards a number of different certificate of completions. We have a pathway that trains them to be paraprofessionals. We have a culinary arts pathway and a technology pathway that focuses on video and photo editing. But what we're doing this semester is we're having a toy drive. So if you all would like to donate any toys, is up until next week. And the organization is an organization based out in Patterson. So we're going to have a full event with like bouncy houses and food and giving out the toys on December 20th. But just wanted to throw that out there. My office is 4023 at 1600. I also have a flyer. So if anyone have any, toys would like to donate or can just pass it along, that would be greatly appreciated.
If you wouldn't mind dropping that in the chat that we have going on today, that'd be great. Then everybody can have access to that. Any other announcements? No. Well, with that, thank you again, Greg and team. I really appreciate this. Was extremely informative. Our next meeting is in February. We will send out more information prior to that. Wishing you all a great end of the semester and hope to see you at the holiday party.